Yeah, it's recording.
Presently, there's lots of focus on health and well-being in the media, and we're all interested in learning lots more about our health and well-being and what we can do to improve it. So today we're going to find out what is bioenergetic health and how it affects your well-being. Hi, I'm Jane Mott, a makeup artist and beauty coach, and I'm passionate about sharing tips and tricks that women over 40 and beyond can use daily to help them look younger, feel energized and more confident, because makeup really is confidence in a tube. And I'm joined today by Katie Dean, who is a bioenergetic health coach. So welcome, Katie. Please would you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Well, good. Thank you so much for having me, Jane. Yes, I'd love to, because I know most people know very little about bioenergetics. So I'll come on to that. But first, just to say, my passion and purpose is to help people find their energy. I had chronic fatigue syndrome for 20 years, so from my mid-20s to my mid-40s. And through that process, I got very interested and learned an awful lot about what depletes the energy in the body, what creates energy in our body, and used all that to regain my own health. So that was a journey that took 20 years. And I'm here to share what I've learned so that other people can hopefully do that a lot quicker, or even better still, don't go to the chronic fatigue level in the first place. You know, save yourself before you burn out completely, would be my advice. So
Prevention is better than cure.
absolutely, yes.
So can you explain what biogenetic health coaching is and how it differs from other forms of health coaching?
Yeah, so basically, I like to see we've got this sort of umbrella that we call health coaching, and it kind of does what it says on the tin, really. So it's, think of it as somebody who knows a lot about how to create a healthy body, who is coming along and sharing their knowledge with you, and also a coach. There's a level of accountability in there. So, I mean, you could go and read an article and learn that, you know, such a particular tip would be helpful for increasing your health and well-being, but you won't necessarily put it in practice, maybe because you don't know how to, or maybe because it just feels a bit overwhelming. So a coach can help you with that. So they can say, you should have this habit in your life, but you're not going to switch it on like that. Here's the easy, simple steps that we can do to build that up. So that's health coaching in general. The bioenergetic piece is actually just simply focusing on the bioenergetics, which is your biofield. And biofield science is a thing. It's relatively new, though. It was only in the early 1990s that it was National Institute of Health in the US actually sort of sanctioned this as an area of research. And what it's really doing is trying to bring understanding to something that we've known for all eternity, really. It's this idea that we have sort of an energy around us, around our physical body. So you might think of it as a bit like your aura. If you go back to ancient tribes and ancient ways of healing, they didn't simply look at the physical body, they would have looked at emotions, at spirits, at all sorts, this kind of whole person thing. And all those elements would be in someone's biofield in the way we would language it, perhaps more scientifically today. So what it really is a field of information. And to understand this principle, we need to sort of turn a little bit to physics, but don't worry, I'm not going to get complex here. It's this idea that if you took your body and you reduced it down and down and down and down, so you'd have a body, you'd see systems, you'd see organs. Each of those organs is made up of the cells. The cells are made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of particles. So that's like us in our basic form. We're particles flying around, and particles will fly around randomly until you direct them to a purpose. So in this case, the purpose is build a human body. So the information is kind of that structure. It's like the blueprint for how you build the body. So in essence, that's what's going on in the field. Obviously, it's all invisible and it's quite hard to research because we can't see it. We're often looking at like the effects of things rather than the thing itself. But the concept is that if the information in your body, in your field, is high quality, then your body is going to be nice and healthy. If that information is getting distorted in any way, so it can be that it's literally blocked. So you imagine there might be a little instruction sitting up here, and my cells can't read that because something's blocking it. Or it can be distorted. It's a bit like losing the signal on your mobile phone. And again, the cells aren't going to pick up accurate information. So without that accurate guidance, they can begin to see it as malfunction, but it's just adapting to their environment. It's just that the environment, the information they're reading is not at its peak performance. So in the bioenergetic coaching, what I'm doing is analysing your fields and the system that I use specifically, because there's different systems that would count as bioenergetics. So the system that I use specifically actually uses technology to scan the field, and it's matching. So the developers of the system sort of worked out what the ideal human biofield would look like, and then your scan matches you to that, and the results show which pieces of information are out of balance, and then we correct those, and that feeds through. So physical symptoms will start resolving as if by magic. So I hope that makes some sort of sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you were talking, I was thought, well, that sort of makes sense, because as soon as we get a cold or a cough or the flu, we want to go to bed because we're just so tired.
Yeah, well, this is it, and it's natural and it's good, because you require energy to heal. And when you think about it, basically a virus has come into your body and it's trying to take the energy to feed itself. Your cells need that energy, so your immune system is there to detect when these interlopers come in and evict them. So the tiredness, that is one function, the energy, but it's also actually a social function. Interestingly, I learned this quite recently, because humans are, we are designed to be social animals. If you get a cold, you don't want to spread that to the rest of your tribe. So your instinct is to go lie down quietly away from everybody else. And so you're actually not only helping your own body, but you're also preserving the health of the tribe, which is amazing.
And fortunately, post-COVID, everyone's doing that again now, rather than just carrying on with the cold.
Exactly.
That's a subject altogether, which obviously we're not going to cover today. So
No.
You're specialising in bioenergetic health coaching, and I'm assuming that's through, like you said, your journey with chronic fatigue. So how are you finding it? How has this impacted the lives of your clients?
Right. Well, I mean, for my journey, I started out seeing chronic fatigue as a physical illness, which it absolutely is. Anyone who tells you, it's all in your head, you're hypochondriac, you're lazy, those messages are wrong, as anyone with chronic fatigue knows. But so it's physical illness. So logically, you go, well, what's wrong with my physical body? So I started working I worked with a nutritionist, so I was changing diet to remove foods that were sort of depleting my energy. I did yoga, which is sort of calming the system down. And so I did all these physical things with the physical body, and I moved quite a long way forward, but I still wasn't recovered. So I was like, okay, well, there has to be more to this. And then I went to a place that I'd initially rejected, which was sort of looking at the impact of emotions, beliefs, behavioural patterns, because we tend to think that they're thoughts, they're in our minds, but actually they carry on through to our biology. There's a real link between our emotions and our physical biology. So I unpacked all of that layer, and again, got a lot better, but still felt there is more. I could have more energy here. And then it was on a conference that was about fatigue, and there was a guy speaking by the name of Harry Massey, and he was explaining the system that he developed, because he also had chronic fatigue syndrome, and he'd been bedbound for 7 years, and he tried everything. And I resonated with, like me, he sort of thought, well, this can't be it, there has to be a solution. So he kind of switched his thinking away from trying to work out what's wrong with my body towards asking the question of, well, what creates energy? If I'm lacking energy, what creates it? So he created the system that I use. So that for me was like the final piece of the puzzle, because it's actually going to kind of the root cause and ironing out the information which feeds through. I kind of think of it, when I was working on the physical level, I'd be correcting that, but as fast as I'm correcting it, my cells are still reading a slightly dodgy blueprint, so they're undoing the work. Whereas when you get back to working with the information, which is the basis of the blueprint, you're making really fundamental change. So that change, I mean, as it turns out, isn't purely limited to just chronic fatigue syndrome. Obviously, a lot of people have used bioenergetics very successfully to overcome that, like me. But it works for all sorts. So aside from my own clients, I'm also in a network of practitioners where we all share success stories, and there's amazing stuff coming through. People that have had weight issues for years and tried every diet under the sun start working with the biofield, and that's correcting things at a level that again feeds through, and they're suddenly, overcoming the weight issues. People that have been on medications start working with the biofield, and they're going back to their doctor, and the doctor's going, oh, well, actually you can reduce the level of this medication now. So it's not, and that is worth mentioning also, it often gets labelled as sort of alternative medicine, but I don't see it that way. It's like additional medicine. So you'd still be working with your conventional doctor, and then this is like an extra layer to add on that just ups the game, really.
Yeah, I love that it's coming across as being really holistic.
Yeah.
I'm really into holistic health and holistic methods, and looking at things as a whole. So I can really see, and everything is made up of energy. I remember in science class, for example, I've got a glass here. So of course the glass is solid, but is actually made up of tiny little atoms that are whizzing around. So it's constantly vibrating. So even solid objects are constantly vibrating and are made up of energy. So I can certainly see, and as you're talking, I can see how that's affecting the whole human body and the physical being. And yeah, there's so many different illnesses out there, and I know there's lots of different types of MS. I've had different, there's the MS that we think of, and then I had a friend that had MS of her bladder lining, and it affected her really strangely, and I can see how that would be an energy blockage. So and then the diet thing as well. I know even myself, you try a diet, you follow it to the letter, and I know people that have, my friend's father, when he was in hospital, because he's a big chap, they put him on a diet, and he actually gained weight in hospital following the diet. And he said, I don't eat this much.
Yeah.
And they were surprised at the end that he had put on weight. So he wasn't, but they were. So I can really see how that's going to work from a diet point of view. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of it that you've got so much happening. If you could imagine a piece of paper with lots of arrows drawn on it, and when everything's confusion, you've got maybe an arrow going this way, an arrow going that way, something going that way. It is like a map of confusion. Once you start sort of changing,
you can't find your way out of, then, isn't it?
It's exactly. So you need to get everything in alignment, because you can be sort of, for example, sticking with the diet, you can be eating a diet that's on paper very, very healthy, but if there's something emotionally that's blocking you from losing weight, then that doesn't feed through. So, and that looks like a medical mystery. It's sort of, well, how come this person is only eating, I don't know, 500 calories a day or something, and they're still overweight? And it's because not the calories that are going in, there's something else going on. Can be at the physiological level, but it can also be at the emotional level, which is what often gets missed.
And I would think an emotion would, I know you can cause a blockage.
Yeah, totally. Literally.
About carrying emotional baggage with us.
Yeah.
Something that happened in your childhood, you then carry with you.
Yes.
Sort of, unless you deal with it, you carry it with you for the rest of your life. And I can really see, as you're talking, I'm thinking I can really see how that's going to block the energy. And it's just going to be hitting against the brick wall, basically, and
yes,
do it what it needs to do. So
yes, And not only is it blocking it, as you say, but also that idea of baggage and carrying it, you're using up energy to carry it. You know, you think about if you were physically carrying a suitcase, how much energy does that require? And if you could just let that go, you gain that energy to put into more productive things in your body. So there's a lot of nuances and complexity in there, and it's easy to miss all of that.
Yeah, no, I can totally get that. And I've had issues with chronic pain myself, and had a reaction to the prescription I was given by the doctors, and it took me far longer to wean off it than it did to go onto it. And they then said, did I want to try another version of it? And I was like, no, I do not. And I went completely down the holistic route, and found out more about grounding and dealing, and through that dealing with some of my emotional baggage, because you know something happens and I'm very much like, you put it in the suitcase, you put it on the top shelf of the wardrobe, and you just hope it never comes crashing down on your head.
Yes. And yes, you're carrying all of that with you,
dragging that wardrobe around with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as soon as I'd taken these down and unpacked them, I didn't actually obviously physically sit there and sift through it as such, but by doing grounding work, I can, and I was thinking about getting my chakras in a line, and that's energy as well.
Yeah.
And I now do not need those prescription painkillers, and I've got to the stage that yes, I do have some pain, but it's manageable. But I look at different. I even said, I went to a pain clinic and I said, well, can you help me with the stiffness of my arthritis? And he said, no, I can't help you with that.
Right.
So I sort of not solved it, but I've reduced it by 5 years ago. I bought myself a hot tub.
Oh.
With you know, for medical reasons, not because I wanted one.
No, of course not.
That's helped me. And again, it's just a different approach.
Yeah.
So I can see how. So I've had a little bit of an experience with clearing energy, not bioenergetic, but with that to reduce pain and make it more manageable.
Well, I mean, it's all linked, even if it's not specifically called bioenergetic, it's all that same kind of thing. And, you know, in terms of the reduction in pain, I mean, it's wonderful to have that experience. And it's also, people just don't appreciate how much trauma we're carrying. That was certainly the case for me, because we get so much that comes from like a normal childhood. You know, everyone in the population is carrying a degree of trauma. It's just how far it goes as to how far that ends up impacting your health. And then unpacking all of that just takes a really long time. So probably if you carry on that unpacking process, you're still going to keep offloading more. And as you're doing that, the pain's going to keep subsiding. The arthritis is going to keep easing. But it's just surprising to all of us how much we're carrying. I mean, a practitioner that I know talks about the average human having about 700 hours worth of healing to go through to unpack their trauma. And yeah, you think about that, that's how many years doing an hour a day? I mean, so it's a lot. It's a lot.
So what are some examples of bioenergetic techniques that you would use in your coaching practice?
Right. So for me, I literally just use this scanning software. So it actually works through the voice. That innovation came in during COVID time, because it used to be sort of a hand scan, but of course when nobody could see anybody in person. Yes, and a lot of practitioners went online at that point. So you can do the voice scan online, which is brilliant. Wow. It means I can actually work with people all over the world. I don't have to be local to them. And so it's basically a 10-second recording, and that analyzes that. And as I say, it does this comparison of, it's analyzing sort of resonance and frequency within your system and comparing that to this optimal system. And it is looking very specifically at which particular parts are out of balance. And it looks on all levels. So some of it is quite physiologically linked, although it's not physiology. You know, if you took that to your doctor and said this has happened, it would make no sense to them. And things can come up. So you might say something like, one of the heart things is out of balance, and then feel like, oh my gosh, panic, am I about to have a heart attack or something? It's not that. It's just looking at it at a different level. So once you've got this picture of what's in balance, what's out of balance, then we have little drops. It's information, corrective information in water, and that in itself is a whole other fascinating science of water. So you simply take a protocol of 5 sets of drops daily for about 3 weeks, and that will correct that little bit. Then you do another scan, you see what's the next bit to work on. And what I really love about it is, if you think about, if you were doing a blood test, in effect, it's a bit like asking a yes/no question. So you're sort of saying, is this thing present in the blood, or is it at this level or at that level? It's sort of kind of very specific, which is why blood tests can come back, not giving you any help, because you just haven't asked the right question.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing the biofield scan, it's more like saying to the body, how are you and what would help you today? Which is far more open-ended and gives the body the chance to say what it wants to prioritize. So different things will come up at different times. And again, people can look at that and feel like, well, that's really confusing. If you're expecting this sort of linear progression, that doesn't happen. But that's not how an energy field works. It'll be prioritizing, well, this little piece of information over here needs correcting, because by doing that, it's going to then automatically correct a whole chain of other things that are so complex we can't. Yeah, and then the outcome will come out. And the system I use has got some roots in traditional Chinese medicine, so some of it's kind of based on the meridians there, where you've got lots of quite random looking things linking together. So like, a toe links to a liver or something. So it might be that we do a correction in the field around the toe, but the pain you're experiencing is in your liver, but it feeds up. And
traditional nervous system, isn't it? You can have a pain in one area of your body, but the other end of the nerve is trapped right at the other end, somewhere else in your body.
Exactly. Yes. We like to try and break our body down into a very mechanistic view, but it doesn't really work like that in reality. There's all sorts of messaging going on at the energy field that's not direct communication that we can just see as A goes to B goes to C. It's complex.
That's one of the things I find fascinating about holistic medicine, because I really love homeopathy, and homeopathy quite often has things in drops. So as soon as you went drops, I was like, yes, I know that works. I've had homeopathic remedies in drops and put in water. The water can then really transfer direct into your cells far easier than a tablet going down, waiting for it to dissolve, waiting for it to
exactly.
That makes perfect sort of sense to me, and my interest in that sort of health. So obviously we've talked about the imbalances and course of action. Oh right, yeah. So we haven't talked about the imbalances yet. So you've assessed the imbalances through the voice?
Yes.
And decided, so then we have touched on the appropriate course of action for you.
Yes, that would be the drop. So
emotions and stress levels influence the body's energy flow.
Hugely.
Help clients manage those factors.
Yeah, so it's a huge impact. At least as big, probably bigger than the actual physical impact, to be honest, because what we don't appreciate is that quite often our physical pains are actually just a manifestation of an emotion. So the scan also looks at the emotional level. So we've got screens on there that literally lists sort of all the different types of emotions and how imbalanced and out of balance they are. So the drops are helping to correct those, but I also work, so this is more where my coaching comes in, where we'll be talking about people's experience. So I don't know, let's say love came up as out of balance. You might have a discussion around that just helps people sort of think about, well, where in my life Am I feeling, too much love or too little love? And is it directed outwards to other people, or is it actually self-love? Because we tend to get sort of set vision in how we're analyzing something. So if someone says, well, maybe this is just me, but if someone says, oh, you're not loving enough, then I would automatically think, oh gosh, I need to be more loving to my friends and family or something. And I forget, no, actually I might be perfectly loving enough towards them, but am I being loving enough towards myself? So there's all these nuances that we explore together. There's also another component. We have imprinted meditations. So in the same way that the water drops are imprinted with corrective information, you can imprint a meditation as well. And so that works on two levels. So the imprinted meditation is working like with the subconscious mind. Yeah, subliminally. And then you'll have spoken words that's working with the conscious. So, if you were feeling like I'm not enough, then the conscious words would be, I mean, they're not this, but you are enough, you are perfect as you are. So you get this 20 minutes of just someone telling you that you are enough, or whatever it might be that's coming up on your field. So
I can relate. I'm a big fan of Louisa Hay and her positive affirmation. She's obviously got the book Heal Your Body.
Yeah.
Heal Your Body, Heal Your Life, I think it is, or something. And then at the back, different ailments represent different things. So
yes, that's really powerful.
Having an interest in holistic and having explored that, I can see these all linking together.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yes, because I use that. There's another lady, Ina Segal, who's written a similar book. It's called The Secret Language of Your Body. And that, like Louise Hay, it goes through and it's looking at what systems represent, what in actual ailments represent. And I just find that really helpful reference. For example, if I have nausea coming up, obviously, yes, it could be because I just ate some dodgy food or I picked up a stomach bug. But if it's not that, then it's quite interesting to look at, so in Ina Segal's work, that has a lot to do with overwhelm. You're carrying too many emotions that you can't digest and process. So once you kind of have that view, you sort of stop and think, and you can maybe do some journaling or something to just start being aware that you're carrying all this stuff. What are you carrying? What can you offload? So a lot of it is about awareness, and it's also very, very empowering because it's putting the control back with you and understanding that you create your own reality on so many levels, which can be frightening, but at the end of the day is also powerful because it means you're not having to rely on the goodwill or the expertise of somebody else. It's all in you if you can access
being able to get a doctor's appointment.
Yeah. Small detail.
These days, can you? So,
no.
I found that really interesting as well because I'm part of an art club on a Tuesday evening, and last week we explored neurographics, which was discovered by a Russian in, I think, 2009 or 2014, something really risky. Right. And it's this way of doodling. It's like brain neurons, if you like, doodling, and the basis of doing it gets your emotions out of your body and sort of onto the page.
Wow, amazing.
So it was it is quite therapeutic, and I did find emotions. So I think we are becoming more mindful the more we explore health, and we're more interested, like I said at the beginning. The media is focusing a lot on health and well-being, and we're coming about these things holistically. I think we are understanding we do need to be mindful and present and just take that moment.
Yes, absolutely.
So yes. I think how your bioenergetic coaching is part and parcel of that as well.
Yeah.
So do you incorporate nutrition and lifestyle adjustments into your programs?
Yes, I do. Yes, very much. So the very first screen we look at on the scan is actually looking at how your biofield's interacting with the world around it, simplistically. So it looks at how balanced it is in diet, in fluids, so how much water you're drinking, also sleep and circadian rhythm. So that's encompassing both good sleep patterns, but also the whole body clock, because we're actually timed to to do certain things, there's an optimal time of day to do various different things, which if you're working in alignment with that, you have much more natural energy flow. And and also how we interact with the fields, like the magnetic field of the earth. So that all gets picked up on the scan. So when things come up as out of balance, then opens the way for a discussion with the clients about, well, what does your diet look like at the moment? Where can we make some changes or improvements? How are your sleep patterns? And, are you good at going outdoors? Do you ground, walking barefoot on the earth? Do you get some time in daylight first thing in the morning? Do you switch off your blues, all your TV screens and stuff before you go to bed? So there's a lot of different just lifestyle habits that we can build in. And as I said right at the beginning, coaching is about helping people actually make change. So I would never go, right, every single item on that screen has an issue. We need to change your life completely. You kind of, you pick the priority and you go, right, so for the next 3 weeks, you're going to focus on just this one habit. So maybe it's, eating more vegetables, and you're going to focus on that for 3 weeks. And then in 3 weeks' time, we'll keep that in place, but we'll layer another habit on top of that. So it's this process of habit stacking, which breaks things down to make it manageable, so you can actually create genuine lasting change, not just, oh well, I did that for a couple of weeks and then I forgot it and went back to my old ways.
Yeah, I've been known to do that when I've had exercises given me by a physiotherapist. I do the exercises until I feel better, and then when I feel better I stop doing them, and then of course I start to decline again. So then I'm like, oh, but that's because I've stopped doing the exercises they told me to do. So no, when you said that, I can totally relate to that. So yeah, we do need to get the practice in place so that it becomes the habit that we continue with.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I can understand that. So in your experience, what are some common misconceptions about bioenergetic health coaching, and how do you address them with clients who may be skeptical about the effectiveness?
Right. Well, there's a whole minefield. So let's use this as an example. It's wonderful having this conversation with you because you've already got some background in holistics and you've got points of reference that as I'm talking, you can say, oh yes, that makes sense because of this experience that I've had.
Yeah.
If I were to go and talk to, say, a conventional doctor who's never come across any of this in medical school, and they have the view that they've learned everything that they need to know, which that doesn't apply to all doctors.
I know everything.
But it's not, then it's quite difficult to, it depends how open-minded someone is as to whether I can start explaining it in this way, whether they shut down and go, well, you're talking absolute nonsense, particles, information into your body, what the heck, or whether they're actually open-minded enough to start exploring. And that doesn't mean you have to take it all on board as gospel right away. Just be open to it. And the interesting thing is, because bioenergetics it's working in the quantum field, really, which means that our personal intention actually has a really big impact. And that's so hard to explain, because what that basically means is if I come to my scan and my protocol with the intention that it is going to be helpful and beneficial and I'm going to see improvements, then I likely will. If I come to it with this view that, well, this is absolute rubbish, but I've been dragged here kicking and screaming and whatever, I'll go through the motions, then it won't have a positive impact. So it seems to prove my belief that it is rubbish. But of course, when you say that to somebody, it sounds like, well, yes, that obviously proves that it's rubbish. Yeah. So yes, exactly. The get out of jail free card that's meaningless. So that's really the biggest difficulty. And I mean, I see that all I can do is just share what I know and invite people to experience it for themselves. And no judgment, no pressure. If someone is not open to it at the moment, no problem, just walk on by. And equally,
quite scary if you've got to get rid of some emotional baggage that you may not even be aware you were carrying around. That could be quite scary and traumatic to not necessarily revisit, but to even think about having to unload it in some way.
Yes, but it doesn't, it kind of happens more gently. I mean, as if you're going to traditional therapy, talk therapy, to unload your emotions, that quite often does involve actually reliving through describing to another person the traumatic experience, and that is not going to feel good. And there's actually some quite compelling questions as to how much good it actually does, because it can simply re-traumatize, not actually shift anything out. With this, because it's just correcting information, you have stuff come up that sometimes your conscious mind will make a connection. So you might suddenly find yourself in floods of tears as a result of some of the drops you've been taking, and you might not know why you're crying at all. But sometimes your conscious mind may simultaneously remember an event, and that probably is that event actually releasing. But this is the thing, you don't have to know, you don't have to track what you're releasing in order for it to release.
And I think in many ways, I know from getting rid of some of my own emotional baggage, you don't actually unpack it and go through it.
No.
It's the fear that that's what's going to happen.
Yes. Yeah, it's the fear you're going to have to relive it. And at the end of the day, all of it was a survival instinct in the first place. The reason you locked it up in a suitcase and put it on top of your wardrobe, or you disconnected, you numbed out, was because at the time that it happened, that emotion was too overwhelming for you to process. So you have that memory as well. So it's very logical and sensible that when someone suggests taking out that suitcase, you're not only remembering the horrible emotion, but you're also remembering that you couldn't process it last time and kind of questioning, well, can I process it now? Yes, you can, because you're an older, wiser, more.
And there's a detachment from it, isn't it? There by
yes, yes,
we're carrying it around with us, but we're not even aware we're carrying it.
no,
we're dragging along.
Yeah.
So, can you share any personal experiences or transformational moments that have really deepened your passion for bioenergetic health coaching?
Lots actually of things releasing that well, as you say, I didn't know I was carrying. So sometimes some specific memories from childhood, and not even, I mean, just to clarify, I didn't have terrible parents or a horrific childhood or anything like that. But I did. I mean, I was bullied at school, so that was not great, and I knew that. But it's things like, I remember I had something coming up that was really unexpected. So when I was 4 years old, my dad's job got us posted to the United States for, we thought it was going to be 3 months initially, then it became 6 months, and then it became a year. But because we thought it was only going to be a 3-month stay, I couldn't take all of my favorite soft toys with me. I mean, just logistically, we didn't have room in the suitcase. And as a 4-year-old, and so my parents were really good about that, and they did the next best thing. They took photos of my toys, so I had photos. And I hadn't realised until this came up as a memory and absolute floods of tears. I hadn't figured that actually must have had a bigger impact on me, that kind of removal from my safe environment and my little family to a strange place. And that came up. And it is literally, after you've cleared something like that, your body does feel lighter. So having chronic fatigue, yes, fatigue, tiredness, but there's actual weight about your body. You sort of, the whole, that's your kind of posture that's natural, that you don't even really realize you're doing it. I mean, it actually looks like I'm carrying a ton of baggage on my back. When you release it, it's just, like your posture naturally changes. You just feel lighter, your head feels clearer. So it's all these nuances, and there'll be various times, various stages where I've released particular things, and each time it's another step forward, really.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. So finally, what advice would you give to individuals who are curious but unsure whether it's right for them?
Well, I've got lots of information and I'm adding to it all the time on my website, my YouTube channel as well. So just start reading articles, watching videos, to get a flavour for what it is. If you're, not someone who needs to understand everything, then you can jump straight in, as I do. Each month we have a limited number of slots available where I'll do a free scan for somebody. So normally if you come in and working with me, you'll do a scan, you'll work for an hour and a half and you'll get your protocol, and that's one fee for all of that. So with the free scan, you do the scan, you spend just half an hour with me, so we kind of talk through a few top issues. If that has really grabbed you and you wanted to then buy some of the nutraceuticals and try your protocol off the back of that, you absolutely can. But equally, it's people use it just as a chance to see how this works. Does it resonate with them? And I love it. I get so many people. I had a lady the other day who was like, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm actually a little bit freaked out by this because the information you're reflecting back to me is so accurate. How do you know this?
Yeah.
I love it when I get that response of, it's not magic. It's just, it literally is still field, and this is, it's a screen on a machine. I was going to say a piece of paper reflecting that to you. It's not a mystery. So just read a little bit more information, come to my website, book a free scan if you're feeling like you'd really like to give that a go.
And what is your website, Katie?
It is findmyenergy.co.uk.
I will make sure when that I put that in the comments or text so that people can find it. But no, that was all really, really interesting. I really didn't have a clue what it was about, and so I found that really interesting. And yeah, as I say, it, like you said, it relates a lot to some of the holistic. I'm really interested in holistic health. So thank you for your time and thank you for explaining that. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a joy to share it with someone who's, coming to this with that holistic background. So thank you.
Super. Thank you too.